Hello, dear sinceres. So today we're going to talk about this moon eclipse, this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and what it means and will mean for the world and might mean for you. So lunar eclipses are when the sun is opposing the moon and the moon is conjuncting one of the nodes as well as the sun. In this case, this lunar eclipse in Scorpio is going to be conjuncting, the moon is going to be conjuncting the south node in Scorpio. And this eclipse is a penumbral eclipse where is more the shadow of the earth that will be heating the moon instead of the actual full spectrum of the earth covering the full moon. And so we'll see more of a faint kind of eclipse, and it will not be visible in UK where I live. This won't be visible at all. And this eclipse in Scorpio is of course intense, even because we have Uranus taking part of this eclipse by conjunction with the sun and opposition to the moon. And what might this mean that it's taking place in Scorpio? Thinking of the full moon as a portal to the astral world, because that's how I see the full moon, given that the full moon tends to be associated with lunacy, with werewolves, with all these kind of Halloweenish occult things. It takes a more dark scorpionic sense when a full moon happens, and being in Scorpio is going to have even more of this. We also had the lunar eclipse in Scorpio last year, so we're having another one, the last one this year, now on the 5th of May. And Scorpio sign takes us to this state of crisis, of stress, of anxiety, but also it allows us for a deep reflection. In Scorpio, or having the moon there, we might feel our emotions are exploding and are being quite overwhelming. In esotericism, Scorpio is the fall from paradise. Scorpio comes after Libra. Libra is the state of harmony and perfection, is when God created paradise, created Adam and Eve, is when the seventh day, the seventh sign, the seventh day of creation, and God took a rest and let them play in paradise in this state of complete innocence. And they were just told, hey guys, look, you have all of this, and please play as much as you want, but don't touch that tree. Don't touch that tree of knowledge. I find, even though I'm not necessarily practicing Christian, I find so much beauty in mythology and in the stories of the old. And I read the Bible many, many times in my childhood. So I find this quite fascinating because I always think there's so much secrets and so much analogies and archetypes hidden in these stories. But continuing, isn't it funny that God created a perfection, a perfect world, perfect place, perfect heaven for Adam and Eve to live forever and ever and ever. And then he also placed the tree of the forbidden fruit there. I think God is a little bit twisted. Sorry if I offend you, anyone. I don't mean to do it that way. I love God. I have a lot of respect for God, but I also think he has a hell of a sense of humor. And so I think this is quite interesting. And then we have Scorpio. And what is Scorpio? Scorpio has 3 stages of evolution. It has the lizard, it has the lion, and then it has the final stage where it's the eagle or the phoenix. But the first stage is a lizard. And so we have Scorpio coming after Libra, heaven, paradise, the 7th day of creation, where we have all this perfection going on. Isn't it interesting that the Via Combusta of the moon happens from the 15th degree of Libra and moves into the 15th degree until the 15th degree of Scorpio? I see this 15th degree of Libra as the moment where you get the little serpent coming and saying, hey guys, why don't you try the fruit of tree of knowledge? And tempting and threatening the destruction of all of this heaven and paradise. And I mean, God must have been snoring because he didn't see any of it happen. He just let it all happen. I think Scorpio sign in esotericism is the fall from paradise, because that's when we lost the state of harmony and we ate this tree of knowledge. And knowledge of what? A knowledge of good and evil, of the death and decay, of endings of the good things. This is a house of suffering. 8th house of Scorpio is a house that represents suffering and pain. Scorpio represents crisis. Also, Scorpio opposes Taurus, a Venusian sign, and has Libra, a Venusian sign, in the 12th house of endings and losses, the house of undoing. Venus is beauty and perfection. Mars, ruler of Scorpio, is war, death, conflict. These two are lovers in mythology, but they are also polar opposites. Mars through Aries opposes Libra, and Taurus is 12th house for Aries. So there is this kind of conflict going on where we have this beauty, perfection, this state of grace and love and romance and absolute state of grace and blessing, and that Venus is. And then we have Mars coming along and destroying everything. So in Scorpio, we tend to get into a state of loss of paradise, of the comfort, of the stability, of the state of paradisiacal perfection, where we could all eat the fruits of paradise that God created until we were tempted by the lizard, the snake, the Scorpio. And so somehow this lower level of Scorpio managed to enter this perfection of paradise while still in Libra, and tempted us to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But when we look at our lives, don't we all end up having to eat this fruit of knowledge and lose paradise at some point? When we are growing up, the more we learn, the less innocent we get. Also, the less naive. Scorpio, the snake, take us away from this childhood naivety where we live codependently from our parents or the people who raised us in eternal paradise. Because here, every day is the same, forever and ever and ever. Nothing seems to change. You just eat fruit from all of these trees, and you live in perfect absolute perfection and happiness forever, until you're too bored, so bored, nothing happens, that the only thing you haven't done in paradise was try the forbidden fruit. And so nothing seems to change in the state of paradise, in the state of heaven and perfection. But also nothing seems to evolve either. We are in this constant state of stasis where nothing happens. Everything is the same. And then we have the snake, like in a Marvel movie, coming as the antagonist to test us, to challenge us, to provoke us. Would we watch a movie where nothing happens? No, most of us would not. A good movie always has a challenger, an enemy to fight. So here we find ourselves in the sign that spoils everything for us, but also brings action into our life. The final stage of Scorpio is the phoenix, the mythical bird that rises from its own ashes. And don't we love when the hero is almost in its last minutes, almost dying, almost gone, almost losing. And then in that split second, when we least expect it, he rises from those last drops of strength and beats up the nemesis. We all love watching movies like that. We know it's too easy. It's not as fun to watch in the cinema when it's just so easy for the hero to beat up the enemy. Like, oh, there's no really much climax going on. It's just so boring. But when we have those moments where like everything seems lost, and in that edge of a moment, we just see the hero rise up and beat up. We love it. So yes, this full moon preludes a time that can be intense for the world, for us, for the Scorpios, the Tauruses, the Aquarius, and the Leos, who will be having a square to this eclipse, to this lunar eclipse, especially if they have planets, personal planets, around 14, 15 degrees, 5 after and 5 before. But also let me remind you that Scorpio is the sign that represents power. It is co-ruled by Pluto that represents power. So the snake that took us from paradise is also the trick that the universe played to lead us to know ourselves and our own divine power. The promise from the snake was, if you eat the fruit, you will be like God. And he doesn't want that to happen, right? And then we learned after eating the forbidden fruit that we now have the knowledge of good and evil. We now have the knowledge that death exists, that we are going to die, that we are going to experience suffering, pain, hunger, loss. But I don't think this was a total scam from the snake. You will be like gods if you do the work, the Scorpio work, the 12 works of Hercules. That's a story for another time. But the Scorpio work is the inner work. You will be like gods if you alchemize the dark, if you transmute the shadow, if you rise your Kundalini, the snake, hidden in your base chakra, up to the heavens and transform it into a phoenix. Then you will become like God. So amidst all the suffering and crisis in the world and around us in our own lives, we must remember this during this full moon and lunar eclipse in Scorpio. We go into crisis so we can learn about our own power, our own inner power, our own divine power. Moon talks us about our emotions and our inner world. So this is very much about what we can transform internally, psychologically, psychically. Can we get in touch with our inner higher guidance? Use all the things stirring turmoil as a source of power. Can we transform a crisis in an opportunity, as the Chinese saying goes? In Scorpio, we stop being innocent, but also we stop being naive. We stop being so easy to trick by the snakes. We become suspicious and aware that there is evil in the world. Not everyone has our best interests at heart. But what this does is that it forces to grow. It forces to mature. Because to be in a world, we have to stop being so gullible, so easy to trick and deceive. We have to get teeth and claws, because it is knowing how to domesticate our own wild animals and demons, our own shadow, that we can be competent in dealing in a healthy manner with the demons and the shadow of the world outside. Or else we will remain childish, dependent, easy to scam, trick, and deceive. And we also never take ownership of our own power. Also, Mars is the ruler of this eclipse, the lunar eclipse, and Mars was the ruler of the previous solar eclipse in Aries. And so we have this Mars energy, which can also be indeed a pronouncement of war, of aggressiveness, of violence, of accidents, especially having this lunar eclipse with Uranus conjunct. That can also indicate accidents. But I feel as well from the positive side, this Mars is the energy that allows us to fight for what's right, that allows us to fight against the demons, that allows us to fight against the evil, that allows us to stand our ground and make boundaries of where evil shall not pass, and defend those that are innocent and unable to defend themselves. So there's also this energy. And this is one of the lessons that we have to learn and that Scorpio also teaches. The higher levels of Scorpio, they are caring. They want to transform all this evil into the most divine energy possible. That is the end goal of Scorpio. So this eclipse has Uranus conjunct, and this might bring many unexpected events in the world and to those who happen to have planets in the fixed signs around the degrees of the eclipse, 14th and 15th, but I would give it an orb between at least 20th and the 10th degree. So if you have planets in the signs of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio between the 10th and the 20th degree, this might be something that might affect you. And I would consider only the personal planets. I would not consider any planets after Saturn. It can make things that are already bad a bit worse due to its explosive effect. It can make things that are already bad a bit worse due to its explosive aspect. After all, Uranus gets exalted in the sign of Scorpio. So imagine dynamite, plutonium, a gas leak being stored near a live volcano. Uranus is also talking of many revolutions, riots, and it's possible that some might lead to deaths or violence. Also because the co-ruler of Scorpio, Pluto, is in Aquarius. We may see abuse of power from the financial system. Scorpio rules banks and the financial system as it does the stock market. And given all that we have been hearing and going through these past months and years with Uranus in Taurus, especially the past few months, weeks, this might bring more disturbing news as Mercury is also conjuncting this eclipse, along with Vesta. And so the media might be bringing this type of information as well. We can also get ultra-focused or obsessed with something, emotionally incapable of letting go, being too anxious, too concerned with everything that's going on, and not being able to let go or stop thinking about something. Also, Mercury is retrograde at the moment, so some news we might hear a little bit late or later. And one thing I wanted to mention was that when Mercury was very close to Uranus in Taurus before it went retrograde, we saw major media moguls being fired from the news in Fox and CNN. With the full moon eclipse, we might see major shakeups that we only get to hear about in a few months, as Scorpio likes to hide and secrecy. Lunar eclipses is very much about shadows, and it's not something so visible. It's something that is more concealed and happens internally. And Scorpio is very much about keeping it to itself as also a form of power and control. And so this might express shady business in politics, banking, oligarchy. But as I said, Pluto is also in Aquarius. And we have been seeing people in France, Israel, and other countries already demonstrating and rioting en masse. And with this lunar eclipse, I think this is about to get even way more intense. Let us not forget that Pluto is also still squaring the nodes, the south and the north. So, dear Marvel heroes, here we are at this intense moment in the movie where all is escalating and the music is getting that intense, that sense of suspense and action. And we are on the verge of the seat to know what's going to happen next. That is the world right now and during this eclipse. Mars is getting all emotional in Cancer, fighting for family and loved ones, not being the most efficient but doing everything he can, a bit like Thor without its hammer. And also getting a little bit dreamy, maybe thinking of escapading a little bit to the fantasy world as it is trining Neptune. Venus is also squaring Neptune, helping us, making us dreamy, a bit delusional in love, romantic and artistic. But with all this crisis, we might need a little bit of romance and escapism. Saturn is sextiling Mercury, so if you're feeling too anxious, ground yourself by going into nature, taking a break from all the news, all the craziness, all the information bringing you down, and do some art, painting, and appreciate the little things in life. Make some gratitude lists, collect a group of thoughts to have during these difficult times, something that makes you feel more positive. Mars is squaring Jupiter in Aries, the dwarf planet. So even if you feel like it, at least on the full moon day, please, 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 please abstain from going into arguments about your beliefs, your ideals, your opinions with others. Really do that is a serious advice, because with this full moon conjuncting Uranus and having these margins squaring Jupiter in Aries, the dwarf planet, in Aries, this might get into really unexpected results. Remember what I told you about the plutonium, the dynamite near a volcano? Just don't say I didn't warn you. Also, this full moon is in Pisces Decan and Aries Watt. So basically, we might be feeling super overly sensitive, at the same time impulsive and aggressive and explosive. And with this time of so much turmoil, tension, I just want to suggest for you to remember your power. Take a moment, meditate, go into nature, take a break, and observe all the turmoil that you might be feeling in a state of silence. Feel the power of your spirit, and where is it guiding you? This is a crisis, but is also a great opportunity for you, for us, to find where our true power lies, and that we can make it to the other side and become the phoenix. So focus on the phoenix, alchemize, transform, and may the cosmos and the stars be with you.